What if the hell we've always heard about isn't some, fiery pit in the afterlife, but, well, but the actual reality we're living in right now?
Hmm.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into a fascinating, maybe challenging idea about existence itself.
We are. We've been looking into the thoughts of someone who calls himself a free thinker, a YouTuber.
Right. And his experiences living in places like India, Africa, South America, plus a lot of reading, seem to have led him to this pretty startling idea
Which is?
that Earth itself is basically a form of hell. And maybe more crucially, that there might be a way to sort of escape or navigate it differently.
It's definitely a perspective that grabs your attention, and the source we're digging into is this audio recording. Earth is a game board. Earth is hell. You can escape. .mp3.
Yeah.
And like you said, he's very clear up front. He's not claiming any, traditional authority. No guru status here.
No, not at all. Which kind of sets the stage, doesn't it? We know we're in for a different kind of journey, sort of filtering spirituality, philosophy, even physics through this skeptical but curious lens.
Absolutely. And he doesn't really ease into it. He kind of throws out this what the F question right at the start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sets the tone. Clearly not worried about, conventions.
Not at all. And he voices this real skepticism, not just about organized religion, but also about hardcore materialism.
Which is interesting because he uses quantum physics to back that up. This idea that maybe the physical world isn't as solid or fixed as we think.
Right, that things can sort of pop in and out of existence, that maybe physicality itself is, well, maybe an illusion on some level.
So our everyday sense of reality, solid chairs, tables, maybe not the full picture.
That seems to be what he's suggesting,
Right.
using these quantum ideas, like the observer effect maybe, to hint that the universe is more interconnected, less rigid than just, atoms bumping around.
And that naturally leads him to wonder about, well, what happens after we die? If reality is less fixed, maybe death isn't either.
Exactly. He brings up the idea that something of us continues. Maybe not our full personality exactly, but energy.
He mentions the law of conservation of energy, right? Energy doesn't just disappear, it transforms.
So the energy of our consciousness, he figures, must go somewhere, change form.
Which then opens the door to thinking about multiple lives. Reincarnation, basically.
Yeah, concepts you find in Eastern traditions, though he's quick to say he's suspicious of all religions. He doesn't want to be boxed in.
He even throws astrology into the mix, suggesting maybe the timing of when a soul enters a body isn't random.
It adds another layer, doesn't it? Challenging that idea of death as the absolute end, suggesting maybe a much longer cyclical journey for, well, whatever we fundamentally are.
And it's within this whole framework that he looks at Earth and calls it, pretty bluntly, F up, hellish.
No, he sees the obvious problems: pollution, war, disease, all that. Can't miss them.
Right. But he says the real hell, the deeper issue, is this feeling of separateness.
The illusion of being trapped in our own individual bodies, cut off from everything else.
Exactly. That's the core of the hell for him. And he thinks both the religious fundamentalists just waiting for heaven and the, bitter atheists who think none of it matters,
Yeah.
they're both kind of missing the point about this reality.
So when he says hell, we need to be clear, it's not the, Dante's Inferno kind of thing.
No fire, no pitchforks. It's more about the condition of being physical, experiencing the limits and the suffering that comes with it, and being caught in that illusion of separation from the universe, or what he sometimes calls God.
And our actions matter in this view, like bad choices.
Yeah, but not in terms of eternal damnation. It's more like if you don't learn the lessons, if you act without virtue, you just prolong the cycle. You hinder your own growth.
Okay, so if this place is a kind of hell, or maybe a tough school, what's the point? Why are we here?
He describes Earth, pointing out its immense age, like 2.5 billion years, as a sort of training ground, a game board. He even uses the phrase hollow deck, but quickly adds that things here still matter. It's not meaningless.
A training ground for what, though?
To develop, to grow, to evolve our consciousness, basically, to reach a point where we don't need to manifest here anymore.
He finds it kind of sad, doesn't he, that some souls might only be here once, while others are stuck for, hundreds or thousands of lifetimes.
Yeah, he does. There's a sense that maybe the non-physical reality, while maybe more powerful in some ways, lacks something crucial.
Like what?
Maybe the juiciness, he suggests, the clear cause and effect that this physical world provides. Maybe the challenges here are necessary for a certain kind of learning.
Learning through difficulty, essentially.
Yeah.
And the core difficulty, the suffering, is that feeling of being cut off.
Yes, that sense of separation from what he sees as this loving, interconnected universe or God. That's the fundamental pain.
And he's really wary of groups trying to explain all this, isn't he? Calls them all cults.
Yeah, spiritual, materialistic, doesn't matter. He sees groupthink everywhere. He even speculates there could be, like, even lower, more hellish worlds in this one.
Wow. So a hierarchy of challenging realities, maybe. Different levels of this separation.
Seems like it. And he gives some pretty vivid examples of hellishness right here on Earth.
Like where?
He talks about the slums in New Delhi, the smell, the pollution, the sheer poverty, the hazy air in Tanzanian cities like Dar es Salaam,
Okay. Very physical examples.
but also Guatemala City. The fear, the stress, the barbed wire, the walls everywhere. That feeling of separation made physical. He calls it darkness.
But it's not just external places, is it? He talks about an inner hell, too.
Right. The mental or spiritual hell of just not knowing your true nature, being ignorant of this bigger picture he's painting.
And he brings it right up to date, talking about modern life.
Oh, yeah. Smartphone addiction, that constant need for stimulation, the notification buzz, how uncomfortable we are just being alone with our thoughts.
The craving for validation, Facebook likes, that whole thing. He sees that as a kind of modern hell.
Absolutely. And our consumer culture shop. Buy stuff we don't need, eat junk food that makes us feel physically bad.
Yeah.
It all ties in for him. It keeps us trapped.
And he thinks most people are just operating at a level where they don't even ask these deeper questions?
Pretty much. Which just keeps the cycle of reincarnation going, in his view.
What about the memory wiped between lives? That's a fascinating idea.
Yeah, he compares it to wiping a computer hard drive. The idea isn't punishment, it's function. So you can operate in the new life without interference from the baggage of the last one.
But karma still operates, cause and effect.
Oh yeah, he says that's still real.
Mhm.
It influences who you're born as, your circumstances. But the conscious memory is gone, so the lessons might be learned more deeply, maybe subconsciously shaping you.
Interesting. And what does he think happens to people stuck in rigid beliefs, like fundamentalists or atheists?
He speculates, kind of provocatively, that they might just get bored.
Mm.
The fundamentalist in their static heaven, the atheist may be lingering in negativity, and eventually that boredom or dissatisfaction pulls them back for another round on Earth,
Back to the game board.
back to what he calls this low-frequency place. He even suggests humans are like children compared to other beings out there in the universe.
So we're cosmic toddlers, basically.
In this view, yeah. Still learning the ropes,
But it's not all doom and gloom, is it? He does talk about potential, escape even.
definitely. He holds out hope that Earth could become a heaven, but admits we're, not there yet, not even close.
And he mentions the idea of help from outside, other beings.
Yeah, this recurring theme in alternative thought visitors, teachers from elsewhere. Often humanoid, he suggests, but more evolved. Technologically, maybe physically, but definitely spiritually.
And what makes them more evolved, in his view?
They understand the illusion. They get that physicality isn't the whole story. They grasp the power of the mind, emotions, vibration, energy, whatever you want to call it.
So real evolution for him isn't just Darwinian survival of the fittest.
No, he finds that view stupid, lame, boring, depressing, his words, because it ignores the soul, the consciousness.
So what is the goal then, according to this perspective?
To live virtuously, with love, to seek answers genuinely, to try and be a source of light, in the darkness he perceives,
And a long-term aim.
to evolve, to graduate from this earth school, maybe manifest in more advanced ways in other parts of the universe, moving closer ultimately to union with God or the source.
He even says these advanced beings might look totally unrecognizable to us.
Yeah, because they're operating on a completely different level.
He uses that StarCraft analogy, which is kind of fun.
Right. The Zerg, Terran, and Protoss.
Zerg being purely physical, animalistic.
Terran, like us, a bit more evolved, but still very physical.
And the Protoss, blending physical and energy. More spiritual.
Exactly. Surrounded by that energy, that aura. He uses it to say, look, we shouldn't feel so trapped in just our physical form. There's more to us.
It's a neat way to illustrate the potential progression he's talking about.
Yeah. And then he brings it back to Earth, literally. Talks about feeling stuck in traffic, hating your job.
Relatable stuff.
Totally relatable, that feeling of being trapped.
Yeah.
He connects it all back to this idea of Earth as hell.
But he ends on hope, Right.
Yeah, he does. He really hopes more people can kind of wake up to this, open their minds, and find a way to navigate it better. He pushes back against those self-defeating worldviews or systems that take our power away.
Emphasizing that something better is possible beyond our current experience.
If we do the work, focus, keep an open mind. That seems to be the core message.
Okay, so wrapping this up, we've journeyed through this definitely provocative idea that maybe our life here, with all its suffering and this feeling of being separate, could be seen as a kind of hell.
Yeah, a challenging concept. And we've touched on the key takeaways. Questioning reality itself, the potential for continuous learning and evolution beyond just the physical body.
And the importance of living with intention virtuously, seeking understanding, trying to connect rather than separate.
So now, for you listening, what parts of this, if any, actually resonate? Do you see echoes of this in your own life or how you see the world?
And maybe a final thought to chew on. If Earth is a kind of training ground, what do you think the most crucial lessons are? What do we need to learn to level up, as the gamer analogy might put it, and potentially escape or transcend this current state?
Thinking about that interplay, right,
Yeah.
between our inner world, our consciousness, and the external reality we bump up against every single day. What's that dynamic really about?